to explore how biology isn't just near chemistry. It is chemistry, just scaled up in this amazing way. So from the tiniest atoms and how they stick together, all the way up to those big, surprising properties that make life, well, live. Our mission, to give you the essential chemical toolkit behind it all. You'll get a clearer view of not just what's going on in living things, but the fundamental why it's even possible.
It really is fascinating stuff. We tend to put biology and chemistry in separate boxes, don't we? But like you said, and the sources really drive this home, biological things emerge from chemical principles. It's all about how these basic chemical bits and pieces interact almost ingeniously to create the complexity we see everywhere in life.
Okay, so if chemistry is the bedrock, what are the absolute must-have building blocks? The sources point to, like a VIP list, right? 6 elements making up something like 98% of us. CHONPS, they call it. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur. We probably know them individually, but it's how their unique atomic personalities work together. That's the magic.
Exactly. That synergy creates this incredible toolkit. Take carbon, for instance. It's not just a backbone. It's more like life's ultimate molecular Lego brick. Its ability to form 4 stable bonds, including with itself, is just unparalleled. That's what allows for the sheer, almost dizzying variety of organic molecules. Without that, well, life couldn't be nearly so diverse.
Right, that flexibility is key. And you've got hydrogen everywhere. Part of water, part of organic stuff. Oxygen, obviously crucial for breathing, for getting energy, and yeah, for water itself. We'll definitely circle back to water. Nitrogen, that's essential for amino acids, right? The protein building blocks. And also for nucleotides, which make up DNA and RNA, our genetic code.
Precisely. And P, phosphorus, that one's really interesting. It's non-negotiable for the backbone of DNA and RNA, like you said. But it's also at the heart of ATP.
Ah, the energy currency.
The cell's universal energy currency, yeah. And it's in phospholipids, too, those molecules that form cell membranes, the barriers defining every single cell. Super important.
Okay. And the last of the big 6, sulfur, sometimes overlooked.
Maybe a bit, but it shouldn't be. It plays a critical role in stabilizing the 3D shape of proteins, locking them into the right form using disulfide bonds so they can actually do their jobs. Plus, it pops up in certain vitamins and coenzymes.
So that's the main crew, CHOMPS. But the sources also mentioned other players, didn't they? Trace elements.
Absolutely. While CHOMPS do the heavy lifting, these trace elements are vital, even in tiny, tiny amounts. Think iron. You need it for hemoglobin in your blood to carry oxygen. Simple as that. No iron, no oxygen delivery. Or iodine, essential for your thyroid hormone, which basically runs your metabolism. Zinc, copper, manganese, they all have these very specific, indispensable jobs. It shows you need a really diverse chemical set.
And this is where it gets really practical, connecting these elements to actual health. Like the sources mentioned phosphate depletion. If you don't have enough phosphate.
Yeah, it directly messes with ATP production. You basically run into an energy crisis throughout your body.
Wow.
And defects in sulfur metabolism aren't trivial either. They can lead to some serious conditions like homocystinuria, affecting connective tissues, development, all sorts of things.
It really drives home how sensitive our biology is to this fundamental chemistry. Okay,
Right.
so we have the elements, but they don't just sit there. How they connect, how they bond. That's what dictates shape and function, right? The chemical glue.
That's the perfect way to put it. The glue, it dictates everything. You've got covalent bonds where atoms share electrons, really strong, forming the stable backbones of molecules like DNA and proteins.
And those can be polar or nonpolar, depending on how equally they share.
Exactly. Equal sharing is nonpolar, like in methane. Unequal sharing, like in water, creates polarity, slight charges. Then you have ionic bonds.
That's where electrons are actually transferred, creating ions.
Right. One atom gives, one takes, creating positive and negative ions that attract each other, like sodium and chlorine making salt. Strong in dry crystals, but interestingly weaker when dissolved in water because water molecules kind of shield the ions.
Okay, and then hydrogen bonds. You called them unsung heroes earlier.
Oh, definitely. They're individually quite weak, just attractions between a partially positive hydrogen and a partially negative atom like oxygen or nitrogen. But there are so many of them.
So collectively, they're strong.
Yeah. Collectively, they're incredibly important. They provide both stability and flexibility. Think about DNA. The 2 strands are held together by hydrogen bonds. 2 between A and T, 3 between C and G. Strong enough to hold the code, flexible enough to unzip for copying.
And they shape proteins too.
Critically, they're responsible for forming those common protein structures, the alpha helices and beta sheets, which are essential for a protein's final functional shape.
Okay, one more type of interaction mentioned, van der Waals. Sounds a bit more obscure.
They're the weakest, yes. Just temporary attractions from fluctuating electron clouds in nearby molecules. Very short range, but don't underestimate them.
The gecko feed example was brilliant.
Right. It's amazing. Millions of tiny van der Waals contacts let them climb walls. It's not suction cups or glue.
Incredible. And in us.
They help stabilize the overall 3D structure of proteins, kind of like fine-tuning the fit, and they're crucial for really specific molecular recognition, like how an antibody grabs onto a virus or how a drug molecule fits perfectly into its target site on an enzyme. Tiny forces, big consequences.
Okay, elements, bonds. But we can't talk life chemistry without talking about the superstar, water. You mentioned its polarity earlier. That's the key to everything.
Pretty much, yeah. Oxygen pulls electrons more strongly than hydrogen does. That creates those polar covalent bonds within the water molecule, giving oxygen a slight negative charge and hydrogen's slight positive charges. And that polarity allows each water molecule to form hydrogen bonds with up to 4 neighbors. This creates this vast, constantly shifting network of hydrogen bonds, that network. That's the secret sauce behind almost all of water's amazing properties.
Amazing is the right word. Like cohesion water sticking to itself. That gives you surface tension, and it helps blood flow smoothly even in the tiniest capillaries, right?
Exactly. And then there's adhesion, where water sticks to other things.
Right.
Think about how water climbs up a narrow tube or inside a plant stem. That's adhesion at work, crucial for life.
And it absorbs a lot of heat. High specific heat.
A huge amount of heat without its own temperature shooting up too quickly. This is massive for stabilizing our body temperature. Our insides don't just boil or freeze with every little change outside, it buffers everything.
Like a thermal cushion.
Sort of, yeah. And related is its high heat of vaporization. It takes a lot of energy to turn liquid water into steam. That's why sweating cools us down so effectively. The evaporating water pulls a ton of heat away from our skin.
Simple, but genius. And the fact that ice floats, that seems trivial, but it's actually profound, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. If ice were denser than water, lakes and oceans would freeze solid from the bottom up in winter. Kiss complex aquatic life goodbye. The fact that ice floats and insulates the water below is purely down to how those hydrogen bonds arrange themselves in a crystal structure, a quiet chemical miracle.
And finally, the solvent of life thing.
Right. Its polarity makes it incredible at dissolving anything else that's polar or ionic salts, sugars, amino acids, you name it. It surrounds these molecules, forming hydration shells, effectively pulling them apart and keeping them dissolved.
So it's not just a passive background liquid.
Not at all. It's actively participating, enabling transport, enabling reactions. It's the medium where almost all of life's chemistry happens. And let's not forget hydrophobic exclusion, how water pushes nonpolar things like oils together, which is fundamental for forming cell membranes.
The medical side is just everywhere then. Temperature regulation, blood plasma carrying everything around, even lung function.
Yeah, the surfactants in your lungs need that specific interaction with water at the air-liquid interface to reduce surface tension so your alveoli don't collapse when you breathe out. It's incredibly delicate chemistry. Water's just indispensable.
Okay, moving on slightly. Our internal environment needs stability, especially pH. Things go wrong fast if it gets too acidic or too alkaline. That's where acids, bases, and buffers come in.
Exactly. Quick recap. Acids donate protons. H, bases accept them. Lower pH means more acidic, higher H concentration, higher pH, more alkaline, lower H.
And strong ones just completely dissociate, while weak ones only partially.
Right, and it's the weak ones, like carbonic acid and bicarbonate in our blood, that are biologically super important because they can buffer resist pH changes.
Before we get to buffers, though, there's another absolutely core process. Redox. Oxidation reduction.
Oh, fundamental. Oil rig oxidation is loss, reduction is gain of electrons. It sounds simple, but this electron shuffling is how we get energy from food. Cellular respiration is just a massive, controlled redox reaction. Glucose gets oxidized, loses electrons step by step, and ultimately oxygen gets reduced, gains electrons to form water. That electron flow powers ATP production. Without redox, no energy. Period.
Okay, so back to maintaining that stable pH buffers. How does that blood buffer system work again, the carbonic acid one?
It's really elegant. Cusho, a waste product of metabolism, dissolves in your blood plasma and reacts with water to form carbonic acid, H+CO. That's a weak acid. It can then release a proton, becoming bicarbonate, HCO. So you have this equilibrium. Cusho plus H0 plus HCO.
And the body controls both sides.
Precisely. Your lungs control the CO2 level. Breathe faster, you blow off more CO2s, shifting the balance to the left, reducing host, raising pH. Breathe slower, co-uros builds up, shifting right, increasing pH, lowering pH.
And the kidneys handle the bicarbonate part.
Yeah, they're slower, but they can adjust how much bicarbonate they reabsorb back into the blood or how much HO they secrete into urine. It's this constant interplay between lungs and kidneys that keeps blood pH locked between roughly 7.35 and 7.45.
Amazing coordination. And when it goes wrong, acidosis or alkalosis.
Yes.
Acidosis is pH below 7.35. Could be respiratory, like if you can't breathe out enough kioros, or metabolic, like if lactic acid builds up during intense exercise. Alkalosis is pH above 7.45, maybe from hyperventilating and blowing off too much kioro, or metabolic causes like losing stomach acid from vomiting.
And the consequences are serious.
Very. Even small shifts outside that narrow range can mess with enzyme function, nerve signaling, leading to things like seizures, heart rhythm problems, even coma. It highlights how vital that chemical balance is. Okay, this all builds towards something really cool. Emergent properties. The idea that the whole is more than the sum of its parts.
Exactly. It's where systems gain characteristics you just couldn't predict by looking at the individual components in isolation.
Like your sodium and chlorine example. Explosive metal plus toxic gas equals table salt.
Perfect example. Or hydrogen and oxygen gases forming liquid water. With all those properties we just talked about, cohesion, high specific heat that emerge from the hydrogen bonding network, not just from single H0 molecules.
And biologically. You mentioned protein folding earlier.
Right. The sequence of amino acids is just the list of parts. But the precise functional 3D shape that emerges from all those weak interactions, hydrogen bonds and van der Waals, that's the emergent property, the function emerges from the structure, which emerges from the interactions.
So this contrasts with the traditional scientific approach, reductionism.
Yeah, reductionism is powerful for breaking things down. You isolate an enzyme, study its kinetics under controlled conditions, figure out its mechanism. Crucial stuff. But it struggles to explain phenomena that arise from the complex interplay of many, many parts.
Like consciousness, you wouldn't find that by studying a single neuron in a dish.
Exactly. Or how your entire immune system coordinates a response. That's where systems biology comes in. It tries to integrate all the components and their interactions, often using computational models alongside experiments.
Trying to see the whole network.
See the network, understand the dynamics. How do ion channel interactions create a heartbeat? How does changing one enzyme's activity affect the flow through an entire metabolic pathway? How do drug side effects emerge from hitting unintended targets?
The goal is actually predicting these emergent behaviors.
That's the dream, yeah. Predicting heart rhythms from ion channel data, predicting how a population develops immunity, predicting complex drug responses. We're getting better at it, but it's incredibly complex.
And the medical relevance here is huge, too. Electrolyte balance isn't just about individual ions, it's about the emergent electrical properties they create for nerves and muscles.
Absolutely. And protein misfolding diseases, like Alzheimer's or prion diseases, they are essentially failures of emergence. The correct functional shape fails to emerge or maintain stability because the balance of those weak interactions is disrupted.
Tiny chemical changes, massive system failure.
Devastatingly so. Even understanding isotopes, just slight atomic variations, gives us tools like PET scans using fluorine-18 or cancer radiotherapy using iodine-131. It all comes back to understanding these fundamental chemical properties.
So what a journey. From single atoms and how they bond, through the absolute wonder that is water, the tightrope walk of pH balance, all the way up to these complex emergent systems that define life. It really is all chemistry.
It underpins everything. And the takeaway for you listening isn't just academic. Understanding these basics gives you a new lens, a way to grasp what's happening in your own body, why certain nutrients are vital, how medicines might work, maybe even appreciate the world around you a bit differently.
It's like getting a peek under the hood of life itself.
It really is a shortcut to being genuinely informed about how life fundamentally works.
So here's a final thought to chew on. Right now, this very second, uncountable billions of these chemical interactions, bonds forming and breaking, electron shuffling, water molecules networking, are happening inside you, perfectly coordinated, sustaining you. What other astonishing properties might emerge as we get better at understanding the sheer scale and intricacy of this chemical symphony? What might you notice now, walking through your day, knowing the chemical foundations beneath it all? Something to think about.